Coming up on Transformers University, Quintessons, time travel, pirates, and a Decepticon loses his head. We've got a lot to talk about as we talk about Marvel UK right now on Transformers University.
Welcome to Transformers University, brought to you by TFU.INFO. Wait and see. From toys and comics, cartoons to the screen, we'll dive into the history. No one of these. Transformers University, brought to you by TFU.INFO. Info, where the stories unfold, the legends grow with the owner operator Method Anthony. Transformers University, it's the place to be. Autobots and Decepticons, battles and lore. Every twist and turn, we've got the score. From Cybertron's depths to the Earth's shore, it meets the eye and so much by TFU.INFO. Info, where the stories unfold, the legends grow with the owner operator Method Anthony. Transformers University, it's the place to be. It's the place to be. Zoom in, transform, and roll out with us at Transformers University. It's a must.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to episode number 160 of Transformers University. I am your host, Anthony Brucali, owner-operator, madman behind TFU.INFO, the website, the Toy Archive, this podcast, TFU News and Views podcast, and oh, so much more. And once again, I want to welcome you to episode number 160 of Transformers University. This time around, we are headed back to the UK to cover 8 issues of Marvel UK Comics Transformers, plus portions of 2 other issues, and we'll get to that in a second. But before we do, I do want to thank our patrons. So let's give a big shout out to our seniors and up: Alex Mendoza, Eric Sire, John 4X Levengood, Jay Soups, Paul Heel, Rob Gerbracht, and Sean Hamilton. I want to thank you all for being such great supporters of this show and of the website and of everything we do here at TFU.INFO. And if you want to join in, you want to be a part of the fun over on Patreon, patreon.com/TFUInfo, all one word. You can sign up for free to get updates. You can sign up for as little as $1 to get the show at least one day early, and also get a whole bunch of other perks the further up you go. So with that in mind, I just do want to invite you on over to the Patreon. I do also want to note that we are kind of celebrating a few anniversaries here. I'm recording on September 4th, 2025. So that makes this the 8th anniversary of the release of episode 1 of Transformers University. So we have been around 8 years. It doesn't feel like 8 years. We certainly haven't put out 8 years worth of episodes, but I do want to thank you for joining this ride 8 years ago and coming along for everything we do here at Transformers University. I know it's posted on September 4th because episode 0 posted on September 2nd. My birthday is September 3rd, so I am freshly 47 years old today. And I am just so glad we can do this podcast and you can come and be part of this. So with that in mind, we're going to talk a little bit about some Marvel UK comics. Now, before we get into the episodes we want to cover in the storyline of Space Pirates, which is the bulk of what we're going to talk about, we do need to revisit issues 180 and 181 from this series. And why do we need to revisit those? Those are probably something that was done in the U.S., and you are correct. It's actually something that was done twice in the U.S. Issues 80, 180, 181 of the Marvel UK run are the imports of U.S. issue number 43, which is the adaptation of the cartoon episode, The Big Broadcast of 2006. So if this didn't get convoluted enough, Simon Furman, in his very, very smart way of reusing content, decided to work this into the Marvel UK story and actually make that story somehow part of the continuity, very loosely, I should say. So what he did is he created a framing device one in each issue. So there's a prologue page in 180, there's an epilogue page in 181, and the story is framed as Wreck-Gar, telling about the sought-after canister from the big broadcast in 2006, which in the cartoon is the Quintesson Journal. And in issue 180, the prologue page, written by Simon Furman with art by Lee Sullivan and colors with a U by Steve White, which is a color without a U. In this scene, we have a spiky metallic bounty hunter guy interrogating Rekgar, and he has him tied up. And Rekgar tells the story of the canister of the big broadcast of 2006 as his confession to the bounty hunter. Now, at the end of issue 181, the epilogue page, same creative team, Rekgar finishes his confession. The torturer has a Quintesson on the comm, and the Quintesson calls out the torturer for believing Rekgar's lies, which is kind of neat. He notes the inconsistencies between the story and the timeline, how, Galvatron and Scourge and Cyclonus are not even in the timeline anymore, that they've all shifted over to the actual Marvel UK, the Marvel run timeline, and that this is an alternate future and they have left the timeline. And so with that, Rekgar's sentence is death, and that's how we lead into the Space Pirates story. And so from here, we will now return to our regularly scheduled programming. And we start with Marvel UK issue number 182, Space Pirates, or as some say, Space Pirates, Part 1. Written by Simon Furman, art by Dan Reed, letters by Glib, and colors with a U by Ewan Peters. This one has a cover by Lee Sullivan, which features a Quintesson guard and a Sharkticon holding Cybertron in their hands, and both of them saying ours. Kind of like the pelicans from Finding Nemo, where they're like, mine. We have Sharkticons that go ours. We start on the Quintesson's homeworld of Quintesson. Right. I forgot that early UK stuff based on the background text and probably a story Bible have Quintessa written as Quintesson. So it is called Quintesson for the home for the Quintessons throughout the book, which is not confusing at all. It's almost like having a character named Quintessa in a Michael Bay film that has nothing to do with the Quintessons. And Quintesson, the planet, is about to die. More likely, it's about to explode. Krypton style. The Quintessons argue about how to proceed. Now, we find out the Quintessons actually have different names and different sizes, which is something we don't normally see. So, we have this main really large Quint with the 5 heads, and he's named Lord Kledji, Kledji. And then we have a smaller Quintesson named Sevax, who's probably, I guess, comes right after 6-Ax, which comes after 5-Ax, which comes after 4-Ax. So Sevax wants more time to interrogate Rekgar. But the Quintessons decide on to go with their backup plan. And we meet a couple more Quintesson executioners who have names. General G-Rix, G-H-Y-R-I, General G-Rick, G-H-Y-R-I-K. He's going to be sent to take on the primary target, while General Jollop will prepare the fleet. And so from there, we go elsewhere to within Quintessa to Rekgar, about to be executed, throws the guard to the Sharkticons, escapes, but is surrounded in the water by even more Sharkticons. And then, in space, Girick's fleet prepares to attack Autobot City on Earth. And that is where the issue wraps up. It takes us to Space Pirates, Part 2. Written by Simon Furman, art by Dan Reed, letters by Glib, colors with a U by Ewan Peters. The cover features Arcee, damaged and torn, all out of faith, because this is how she feels. And in quotes, it says Arcee, ... deceased, ? And this cover is by Andrew Wildman, credited in this issue as Andy Wildman. Now, why is this important? Well, longtime Transformers fans know Andrew Wildman is a huge part of Transformers comic books and Transformers art in general. And this cover is his debut on the series. So the man himself is a legend in Transformers art. He eventually goes on to draw the main U.S. book for its final year, and would also go on to bigger things in Marvel, drawing Spider-Man 2099, Venom, Hulk, X-Men Adventures, and Night Stalkers. Currently, he's a storyboard artist for TV and film, such as shows such as Luther and Black Mirror, a particular Black Mirror episode, the one where the cab driver gets caught in these, I forget what the setup is, but he's trapped in his own car at one point, like threatening to kill himself. But it's a really good episode, though. He's also co-created a kid series called Shane the Chef, and he co-hosts a podcast with Simon Furman called And the Rest is Giant Robots. And if you're not listening to it, you really should. You get it everywhere you can get this podcast. And they dive deep into their own history with the Transformers brand and a few other things along the way. And they're almost up to modern times, but they're about, I think, a year in. They do it every other week. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. So check out the podcast, And the Rest is Giant Robots. And trust me, we will be talking a lot about Andrew Wildman in this podcast. And for some reason, I was looking at his TF Wiki entry. He is not in the Transformers Hall of Fame, and he very well should be. Now, the story starts with RC bored on Earth and on guard duty. So what does she do? She goes for a drive. It turns out RC sucks at guard duty. The Quintessons watch her leave and attack. And when they attack, Skydive and Blaster get attacked in the comms tower on the ground. An Autobot named Hopper gets killed right off the jump. And Chase and Perceptor and others are there. In the hallways, Beachcomber and Air Raid succumb to a Quintesson attack. Blaster goes to activate Autobot City to transform and gets shot through the back. And then on Quintessa, Wreck-Gar fights the Sharkticons and is saved by Wheelie. And this sets up the hardest to read series of scenes in a Transformers book. Why? Because you have two people with weird speech patterns talking to each other. And you have Wreck-Gar kind of talking in TV, not the same way he does on TV, but in a text form. But not just TV references, UK TV references that were relevant in the late 1980s. So reading this in 2025 is very hard. Then you have Wheelie, who's always rhyming and stealing. Together, reading that is it's kind of nightmare fuel. And they flee the planet together in Wheelie's ship. Now, RC returns to Autobot City and is immediately shot by the Quintessons because they have plans for her. And that is the end of part 2 of Space Pirates. Moving on to part 3 of Space Pirates. This one written by Simon Furman, pencils by Dougie Braithwaite, who we will talk about in just a second, inks by Dave Hardwood, letters by Glib, colors with a U by Ewan Peters, and a cover by Jerry Paris. Now, Dougie Braithwaite also goes by Doug Braithwaite. Went on to a very, very superlative comics career. He began his career at Marvel UK, working on 2000 AD and Transformers and the like, then graduated to some main Marvel books, including Wolverine, X-Men, and Punisher. Went over to DC, did some work on Batman, on Superman. My personal favorite, he has the unique distinction that he has worked for Valiant Comics in both its original form, when Jim Shooter launched the publishing company in the early 90s, working on the original 1992 series Archer and Armstrong, and then also coming back to work on several titles in the 2010s era relaunch of modern Valiant Comics before they were sold to whatever the company they're with now that has not been doing a good job with them. But when they were actually successful coming back in the early 2010s, Doug Braithwaite was part of that as well. Space Pirates is his only Transformers pencils. This issue and the next one we'll cover as well. He also did UK cover number 156, which we skipped because we did it from the US side. That was issue number 38 on the US comics. Now, this one starts with a FaceTime call between Rodimus Prime and the Junkions. Where the heck is Wreck-Gar? Blur reports in and he can't get in touch with Autobot City either. At Autobot City, General Garrick receives word from Lord Kledgy to create a spectacle for the Autobots who are on their way, and phase 2 of their attack plan is underway. On Cybertron, we see Soundwave preparing his Decepticons to attack Autobase while the Autobots are away, because they're flying to Earth to help defend Autobot City. Soundwave was tipped off this by a Quintesson asking for aid in attacking Autobot City. Back in space, Wreck-Gar and Wheelie get attacked by some Quintessons and escape. Where are they headed? They're looking for the canister. Back at Autobot City, the advanced droid from the Autobots arrives and sees the injured or dead. I'm not entirely sure. It's pretty gruesome. The injured and or dead Autobots strung up on the walls of Autobot City. Included in this art shot, which is really cool looking, is Wheeljack, Trailbreaker, Brawn, Blaster, Perceptor, and Slingshot. Ouch. Now, TF Wiki notes, how can Wheeljack and Brawn be there if this takes place after Transformers the movie, which is kind of sort of in continuity now because of Galvatron and whatnot. And I would say that Transformers the movie, not technically in continuity here as far as I can tell, right? Because that story hasn't been told as part of the UK storyline. Now, what I would say is that the existence of Galvatron, whatever, means that this is a future where something like that might have happened. But these characters like Wheeljack and Brawn didn't die in the Battle of Autobot City. And actually, this fight mirrors a lot of what we saw in the Battle of Autobot City in Transformers the movie. And that'll take us to our next part of Space Pirates, issue number 185, Space Pirates Part 4. Same creative team, cover again by Andrew Wildman. Now here, the Decepticons are on their way to attack the auto base on Cybertron. And we get this cool shot, actually, of Soundwave talking to the team leaders of the Decepticons, so like all the subgroup leaders and a couple of random guys from those subgroups, basically pumping them up for the attack while they're riding in Astrotrain. And on their way there, Astrotrain gets ambushed by Quintessons. And turns out that the Decepticons are now under attack by the Quintessons. This was their plan, and it's working. The Quintessons are attacking the Decepticon base, which is now empty because the bulk of their forces had headed out to attack Autobase. So the Decepticons are trapped between their base and Autobase and really just being annihilated by the Quintessons. Soundwave decides he's going to see if he can enlist the help of the Autobots, sends a garbled message to Autobase, which is received by Ultra Magnus and Eject. On Earth, Rodimus Prime and his team land, and Rodimus finds Arcee and uses the Matrix to heal her. And this is part of a trap because Rodimus is then ambushed by General Girick, who takes the Matrix, and Rodimus becomes Hot Rod once again. And that is the end of this issue, issue number 185, as we're 2/3 of the way through the Space Pirates story. Now, we're only halfway through what we're going to cover here in this episode of Transformers University. So I want you to stick around after this. We'll finish Space Pirates. We'll talk a couple more stories when we get back.
Hey, want to help out this podcast or the website TFU.INFO? There's a number of ways you can do it. Let me tell you how. You can help us directly by joining our Patreon and enrolling as a student at Transformers University. There, you'll get early access to the podcast as well as exclusive behind-the-scenes peeks and perks for as little as $1 a month. Sign up is quick and easy. Just swing on by to www.patreon.com/TFUINFO. Another way you can help us is by using our Amazon link, www.tfu.info/Amazon. Type that into your browser whenever you want to shop at Amazon, and a portion of what you spend will be contributed back to us. It's that easy. Finally, you don't become the world's longest running transforming toy archive without some help from other fans. We're always on the hunt for photos of figures and accessories we're missing from our pages. If you'd like to contribute, go to tfu.info/help for a list of what we need, or send an email to info@tfu.info. tfu.info, the Alpha Trion and Omega Prime of transforming toys. Now, back to the show.
And so that brings us to issue number 186, Space Pirates Part 4. Written by Simon Furman, art by Lee Sullivan, letters by Glib, colors with a U by Ewan Peters, and a cover by Andrew Wildman. Hot Rod and Arcee are fleeing their Quintesson attackers and get to the top level of Autobot City, the outside, the roof, the ramparts, whatever you want to call them, where the Autobots are basically being hung off the side. They check Blaster's chest compartment for reinforcements. It was just strange because he was totally shot through the back with a hole in his chest originally. So anyone in there should have been seriously hurt. On Cybertron, the Decepticons are losing, and Ultra Magnus and the Autobots arrive to help. Got a full-scale team-up going on here. In space, Wreck-Gar and Willie find the other Junkions. The Junkions have the canister and are about to broadcast the contents of the canister. Back on Earth, Hot Rod, now with some reinforcements, and Ramhorn, Steeljaw, and Rewind fight the Quintessons in Autobot City alongside of RC. Hot Rod is trying to transform Autobot City, but he gets caught by General Garrick, and those two fight. But he was able to pull it off in time as the city transforms, and we see Metroplex. Which takes us to the final part in Space Pirates, issue number 187, Space Pirates Part 6. Same creative team, except for the colors with a U. That is with Steve White is the color with a U, but White does not have a U in it, and a cover by Andrew Wildman. Here we have Metroplex arise from within Autobot City, which is kind of neat because that goes to the notion that Metroplex is a piece connected to a larger city and not all of Autobot City on his own. He arises from the city and fights off the Quintessons. Hot Rod fights Garrick, and then Garrick realizes that he could use the Matrix that he stole from Rodimus Prime and decides he's going to just run off and go get it. On Cybertron, the Autobots and Decepticons teaming up win and declare temporary truce. But in space, the canister is broadcast, and planets around the galaxy learn about how they are potential targets for the Quintessons to invade and take over as they lose Quintessa. Whatever you want to call it, they're going to lose it. Back on Earth, Garrick, wearing the Matrix, nearly defeats Hot Rod, but Hot Rod beats him by throwing his voice, ventriloquist style, to distract Garrick. Hot Rod then punches Garrick in the face, takes the Matrix, and becomes Rodimus Prime again, and then defeats Garrick once and for all. On Quintessa, Lord Cledgy sends out a final message, telling his people to rise up again shortly before the planet explodes. And that is the end of Space Pirates. There's not a lot of pirate. I mean, I don't know if they mean like space pirates, like, people who leave stuff at your house and take up space in your house. But there's not a lot of pirating really going on in this issue. There's a lot of invading, but not so much pirating. But that is the Space Pirates storyline. This is one of the better multi-part stories that you get from Marvel UK. This is thoroughly enjoyable throughout. Definitely worth a read. I know I boil it down to some very simple facts, but worth reading, especially since the talent on this one is just really good about the folks who worked on this, between Doug Braithwaite and Andrew Wildman making his debut, and of course all the usual cast of characters from Marvel UK. Such an enjoyable, fun read. And that will take us to a pair of stories to wrap us up that are standalone. And I would say one is much better than the other, and I'll let you figure out which one is much better than the other as we get into it. So let's talk about Marvel UK number 188, Firebug. Plot by Simon Furman, script by Dan Abnett, art by Jeff Anderson.
I hope it feels so good to be right. There's nothing more exhilarating than pointing out the shortcomings of others, is there?
Letters by Tom Frame, and colors with a U by Ewan Peters. Now, Dan Abnett is not someone we have talked about. This is one of his earliest works, but he would go on to write for all the big comic book companies: Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, Valiant, basically all of them. And he is still working today. It starts with a meteorite landing at Mount St. Hilary and a mysterious creature exit. It is a firebug. The next day, Inferno, Sandstorm, and Broadside arrive to do some recon training, not related to the firebug, at Mount St. Hilary, but they find a local town ablaze because the firebug sets everything it touches on fire. The Autobots help. They find the firebug. They subdue the firebug, because you got Inferno there. And then they send him to a place that's a lot easier for him to live, the planet Mercury. The end. I don't know if we'll ever see Firebug again, but it's very Kremzik in the storytelling. But not a lot there, other than it's kind of cool to see Inferno, Sandstorm, and Broadside doing stuff. If you were thinking if that was the lesser of the two, you are correct. Now, the next one will make up for that in spades, because the next one is another self-contained story, but definitely has but definitely has implications much further out. And we'll meet some new talent along the way. Now, this one written by, plot by Simon Furman, script by Dan Abnett, pencils by Jeff Anderson.
Hey, you're not allowed to rent here anymore. Yeah!
Inks by Cam Smith. Letters by Tom Frame and colors with a U by Ewan Peters, and the cover on this one by Jeff Anderson as well. Now, Cam Smith is someone we haven't talked about either. He is a UK-based artist, nicknamed Smudge. He had a run as an inker on Peter David's Incredible Hulk from 1993 to 1994. He was Eisner-nominated inker in 1997 for his work on Supergirl. So prolific comic career for Cam Smith. And this one starts with Shockwave with the resurrected body of Megatron that we've seen in the US run, having a fight between a mock-up facsimile version of Galvatron. Elsewhere on base, Shockwave holds his transplants from the future, Scourge and Cyclonus. They have been since target mastered, having their guys and merging the US stories with the UK story of how we've talked about Scourge and Cyclonus becoming the leaders of the Decepticons and then traveling back in time.
Gonna go back in time.
Thus, Shockwave demands an audience with the two, and Scourge and Cyclonus will not be bossed around. In this argument, Cyclonus reveals that they eventually will have to kill Shockwave in the future in order to become Decepticon leaders. So Shockwave, in some sort of weird self-preservation to keep himself from being murdered 20 plus years in the future, attacks Scourge and Cyclonus. Scourge and Cyclonus run into the base, sending Megatron after them. And Megatron mops the floor with them. At one point, he is holding Cyclonus by his throat, very much Darth Vader style, up, holding him up by his throat. And while he's doing this, Cyclonus grabs Nightstick in gun mode and tries to shoot Megatron, and Megatron crushes Nightstick with his hand, essentially killing Nightstick. So I don't know how you survive that, especially since you're human in a shell. Or a human-like person in a shell. Now, Scourge realizes he's got a clear shot, but knows, it may be useless because Megatron is so strong, but two, that may also destroy the timeline because Megatron needs to become Galvatron and all that stuff. So he thinks he shouldn't attack Megatron, so he transforms and flees and leaves Cyclonus on his own. And poor Cyclonus, Megatron rips Cyclonus's head clear off his body, killing him. The effects for this are felt in a weird sideways flash to 20 years in the future. Unicron, I guess? I don't know, but the story is told to be continued in the next Transformers Annual, which will be the next time we cover Marvel UK comics on this podcast. Now, this story in the Marvel UK comics continuity leads into US issue number 45, which is the one where Skullgrin becomes an actor and loves making movies. And that covers all the comics we will cover here in this episode of Transformers University. That last one actually has really resonated with me. It's just, the sheer violence of Megatron in this one, and the timeline, time travel ramifications, which will get settled in a couple of different places later on. So I've been told. I haven't actually read a lot of these stories. Is really neat. It's a really neat thing that Simon Furman does, and we'll see that a lot through his run in Marvel UK, and then also later on his US run. But that will wrap up this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you go and check out these comics. They are really a lot of fun to read. And we'll do this a bit more. We're not doing this on the next episode of Transformers University. You want to find out what it is? Stay tuned right after this.
Thanks for listening to the show. Stick around to hear what's coming up next episode. But first, I want to fill you in on a few ways you can stay in touch with the show. Want to be on the show? Leave us a voicemail at 702-763-4838. That's 702-POD-4TFU. Or send an email to info@TFU.info. Be sure to catch us on Twitter at TFU_info and on Facebook and Instagram under the username TFU.INFO, all one word. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TFU.INFO, where we post all of our podcasts, plus special video segments, reviews, and live coverage of Transformers-related events such as New York Toy Fair and New York Comic-Con. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please visit us at www.tfu.info, the world's longest-running transforming toy archive.
And that will do it for another episode of Transformers University. Coming up on the show next time, we will go back to Japan and cover some Master Force episodes 23, 24, and 25. What are they about? I don't know, but we're going to find out when I watch them and tell you about them on the next episode. So you got some chances here to catch up and watch along with me. Once again, if you want to get in touch with me, best way to do it right now is on Blue Sky, TFU.INFO. .bsky.social. It's where I hang out on social media when I do engage in social media, though I have dialed back a bunch over the last year or so. That said, feel free to hit me up there. I am on there a couple times a day. And, of course, you can always check me out on the website, www.tfu.info. And on all of your favorite social media platforms, we do have accounts just about everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Though Twitter, it's TFU_info. Everywhere else, it's all one word. And please reach out. And of course, if you'd like to help out the podcast, please sign up for the Patreon, patreon.com/TFU.INFO. We got a lot coming up for you in our 8th year, and I'm looking forward so much to doing the show more often and just being a part of your podcast listening experience. Until then, I am your host, Anthony Brucali, owner, operator, madman behind TFU.INFO. Until next time, see ya.
Transformers University, brought to you by TFU.INFO. Where the stories unfold, the legends grow with the owner, operator, madman, Anthony Brucali. It's the place to be. It's the place to be. Tune in, transform and roll out with us at Transformers University.